Okay, we're live. Interesting. This guy, I just... Okay. Interesting, we got it to work. Okay. We're gonna send this one live. Copy. This goes in. Now you see how this pans out. Okay. Good notes. Stream status, latency, keyframe frequency. Do I know how to do that? Not necessarily. Wow, okay. Interesting. Huh. I mean, like, it looks like it's working. I don't know why it's too good. Interesting now is getting this shit to work. Go. Feels like a light bulb. Let's look how this. See how this looks. Okay. Now what's gonna be interesting about this is doing this all on one screen. Whereas if this is full screen, that's something.
Here we go. Okay. Now it's gonna be interesting about this. Let's not cross-reference it here. That's something. Okay.
I mean, we don't have the video live.
This is full screen.
Interesting. Lock it in.
Interesting.
I don't see it, which is such a funny thing.
Okay. All right. Lock it.
The actual link for them. Okay, cool. So, let's see how this looks now. Look at that. We got a live one.
Getting into the zone of it. Okay.
Okay, cool. So,
Cool. So,
look at that. We got a live one.
Getting into the zone of it. A live one. Okay. Just throw
Okay, cool.
right in here.
So,
Right zone of it. A live one. Okay. Right zone of it. A live one. Okay.
You guys see me? Okay, cool. So,
Cool. So,
that. We got a live one.
Getting right zone of it. A live one.
So,
Right in here. So, let me see if I can get this to work.
one.
Getting right zone of it. A live one.
So,
Right in here.
to fix that,
Live one.
so, to Instagram. Because going from, for whatever reason, from one computer, I cannot stream to multiple sources. Because
other computer to stream to Instagram. Because going from, for whatever reason, from one computer to stream to multiple.
There we go.
For whatever reason.
There we go.
Different things happening. Put me on blast on that.
But I'm fixing it.
There
I'm
we
fixing
go.
it bit by bit.
There we go.
This
blast on that. Is this stream doing well here? There's delays on my stream.
Not watching it from there. Closing this. Closing that. Starting from here. Not watching it from there. Only issue I have is because I'm streaming from one screen to the other. Closing that. Starting from here. Not watching it from there. Only issue I have is because I'm streaming from one screen to the other. Closing that. This is just built on different teams. Jesus. Issue I have is because I'm streaming from one screen to the other. Closing that. This is just built on different teams. Jesus. Issue I have is because I'm streaming. Jesus. I realize what's showing on the screen and what isn't. So let me make this much more digestible. Right? And adapt it to one screen. See how it looks until you guys do. Because if I try to preview it, it looks like one thing in the preview screen. But if I try to adapt it to screen quality, like in terms of seeing what's on the screen, help on the Instagram. I think that's the best way to kind of frame it. I can't make it best for both. Screen quality, like in terms of seeing what's on the screen. But I'm seeing the different streams start to lag a little bit, which is interesting. In terms of seeing what's on, they're not being pulled too much with the latency. I'm seeing the different streams start streaming, showing me. Interesting. Sorry, one screen. In terms of seeing what's on. Do you see how many layers this is? It's quite the acrobatic feat. Yeah. Got you. Interesting. Sorry, one screen. In terms of seeing what's on. Do you see how many layers this is? Because it's quite the acrobatic feat. I'm gonna stop doing this on stream eventually. I feel like what I'm doing right now. Interesting. Sorry, one screen. We're figuring it out. So let's get into it. Okay. Eventually. I feel like what I'm doing right now. Interesting. Sorry, one screen. Right at the very tippy top, because it's not as important. Right there. So we use statues. Sorry, one screen. There. So we use statues. So now that we're recording, just letting the ball roll. So now that we're recording, just letting the ball. YouTube subscribe button card. Ball roll. Yeah. So now that we're recording, certain things I'll explain. Letting the ball. There's some YouTube subscribe cards. Ball roll. Yeah. So now that we're recording, certain things I'll explain. Letting the ball. There's some YouTube subscribe. Speaking to yourself, yapping to a camera, letting out the mud, focusing. Letting the ball. There's some YouTube subscribe. Speaking to yourself, yapping to a camera, letting out the mud. In the underlying intent. The hell is which is. You see, that's part of the thing. Losing it.
So to dive into it, let me pin this so people know what the hell is happening.
You see, that's part of the
Is not open. Know what the hell is happening.
You see, that's.
So
Can I copy it? I don't even know if I can. What? This is the truth. You see, I really don't make this easy. To do it on multiple at the same time is such an acrobatic feat. I don't even know if I can. Come on. This is the truth. You really don't make this easy. To do it on multiple at the same time is such an acrobatic feat. I don't even know if I can. Come on. For better quality. Now this makes more sense once I don't even know if I can. To you. Gave you kind of. Now this makes more sense once I don't even know. Let's get some shit. If I can. Now the problem with Notion is there's a finite amount of space I can use. Sometimes they change so much. Let's
get some shit.
Really edit it as you go.
Now the problem with Notion is there's a finite amount of space I can use. Sometimes,
and some parts of it, you know, it allows you to really. Why did I open slides? I think it keeps. I'm colorblind right now. The idea. I can't just sit here and like normally what I would do is in my head execute the task. But now what I do too is over time. How do you spell this guy's name? Execute the task. But now what I do too is over time. The amount of times you have to kind of do that while in action. How do you spell this guy's name? Kind of a little tough. So watching the stream, you have to kind of do that while in action. How do you spell this guy's name? Kind of a little tough. So you get to really actively see my. Kind of a little tough. So you get to really often with notes. This is kind of how I carry around myself, right? So we see my what it means is to study yourself and to take notes. You get to really often with notes. This is kind of how I carry around myself, right? So we see my improve disruption and through that disruption. So what that means in a nutshell, without the
carry around myself, right? So we see my improve
going around thinking. I got a lot to do. I got this to do. I'm more have ideas. Even just now, you kind of saw it as I was. My improve. I'm going around thinking. I got a lot to do. I got this to do. But by exploring that thought, there's all these different opinions and things that can form around it and different contemplations.
Around thinking. I got a lot to do. I got this to do.
To revisit and then grow. So
some things that can form around
part of this split and any sort of
contemplations. Around thinking. I got a lot to do.
Is I see Joe's messaging. Part of the process is to revisit and then grow. So
some things that can.
You can lose yourself.
Part of the process is
to revisit the complexity of things. So when it comes to a workout plan and developing it, that's one pin. We'll get to
it and then grow.
The other
so things that can.
You can lose yourself.
Part of the process is to revisit
the complexity of things. Why am I still quiet? That is a question. Okay. Mic check. Let's bring the volume up on this guy. Come on now. Okay. Mic check. Okay. You see, part of the process too is kind of like, balancing all this shit. So I'm glad I'm recording a good amount of this. I can just kind of clip and stitch it together like some kind of. Still not the best.
Okay. Mic check.
I can just kind of clip and stitch it together like some kind of. Still not the best.
Okay. Mic check.
I can just kind of clip and stitch it together like some kind of. Still not the best.
Okay. Mic check.
Okay. Alright. Can't do this shit on the fly. I'm gonna stop. Okay. Alright. In a nutshell. What are we doing here today? Because there's so many different pins and rabbit holes and kind of a compass of things to stay focused on. And it becomes a performative. Anyways. You know what I mean? I have to stick with it.
Stay focused
I
on.
have to not be.
And it becomes a performative.
We're losing him. We're losing it. Why is it like?
And it becomes a performative.
You know what? There's no need to record this right now. The delays are insane. You are correct.
Delays are insane. You are correct.
Oh, okay. Correct. Hold on. You know why?
Delays are insane.
It's because there's two different audio inputs. That makes sense.
Oh, okay.
Correct. Hold on. There's two different audio inputs. That makes sense.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
You see, that's kind
That
of
makes sense. Oh, correct. Hold on.
You see, that's kind
That makes sense. Oh, correct.
Okay. Give me a bit. Okay. All this afterwards. Talk to you too. Okay. All this afterwards. Yeah, because this is streaming from one spot, the audio is different. So what I'm gonna do. Okay. All this afterwards. Yeah, because this is streaming from one spot, the audio is different. So what I'm gonna do. Which one's better? Okay. On YouTube to record and get done what I need. So what I'm gonna do. Which one's better? Okay. So what I'm gonna do. Which one's me attempting it. Yeah. Overall, right now, because there's so much happening on the screen. Me attempting to hold up both. So. Yeah. Overall, right now, because there's so much happening on the screen. Yeah. Overall, right now, because there's so much happening. Boom, boom, boom. On the screen. Yeah. Overall, right now, because there's so much happening. This one was a mess. Oh, an absolute mess. On the screen. Yeah. Overall, right now. There's so much happening. This one was a mess. Oh, an absolute mess. On the screen. Yeah. Overall, right now. That went absolutely terrible. There's so much happening. This one was a mess. Oh, an absolute mess. On the screen. Yeah. Overall, right now. That went absolutely terrible. There's so much happening. This one was a mess. Oh, an absolute mess. On the screen. Yeah. Overall, right now. That went absolutely terrible. There's so much happening. Mess. On the screen. Yeah. Overall, right now. That went absolutely terrible. There's so much happening. This one was a mess. An absolute mess. On the screen. Yeah. Overall, right now. That went absolutely terrible. There's so much happening. Mess. On the screen. Yeah. Overall, right now. That went absolutely terrible. There's so much happening. This one was a mess. An absolute mess. On the screen. Yeah. Overall, right now. That went. Right now. That went absolutely terrible. There's so much happening. This one was a mess. An absolute mess. On the screen. Yeah. Overall, right now. That went. Right now. That went absolutely terrible. There's so much happening. This one was a mess. An absolute mess. On the screen. Yeah. Overall, right now. That went. Right now. That went absolutely terrible. There's so much happening. This one was a mess. An absolute mess. Interesting. Stream is healthy, so we say. Yeah, I'm viewing myself right now, that's why. Yeah. Okay, so I noticed the delay. It sees me attending to things. How is it now? There's got to be some kind of audio. There's no way. Help me make sense of this. Yeah. Okay, so I noticed the delay. It sees me attending to things. Okay, wow. I fixed it. Good. Alright, so there's got to be some kind of audio scramble, and then I'll clip together and stitch it together later on to show the whole thing. Hopefully. Still out. So, the absolute juggle this was with these, God knows, I used 4 different screens to try and figure out how to stream while I'm looking like I've been hit by a few waves of static. Trying to figure out how to stream both on Instagram and YouTube. And for 30 minutes was an absolute juggle. So I think what I'm going to do is stick to YouTube because I can capture the most. And then I got to get for real about editing and dropping these clips. So what I will do is I'll link YouTube live. I'll post the whole thing because I'm not going to edit none of it now. So you can see the... Okay, we're here. We did it. Okay, focus on doing the actual thing. I think that's one of the things. It's like juggling having to like do the actual thing while also being mentally... That took 37 minutes. That took 37 minutes for me to just kind of make sense of this. So, okay, focus on doing the actual thing. I think that's one of the things. It's like juggling having to kill the audio feedback. Okay. Let's do this. So day 1. Okay. Recording. Start here. Let's make it easy. Wow. Alright. Grounding after being pulled in a million directions just now. Doing this all at the same time is such an absolute headache. What are we focusing on here? Okay. What are we doing here? Articulating what I am responsibly doing. Creating with what I know. Getting out of my own way as much as possible. By answering this question, you articulate your intention and you use what you know to get where you want to be. That's kind of the nutshell. That's the framework that we're thinking about this. It's very easy to be pulled into rabbit holes of answering questions that aren't of service to articulating what you're responsible for, creating with what you know, and getting out of your own way. In fact, by going down rabbit holes, you get in your own way because the inability to continually articulate and produce rather than consume, to nourish the seeds and speak and allow things to multiply in a sense, without having you to think about the consumption framework, indulge in the ideas and opinions about the things that you're doing, right? And allowing you to fail forward, to fall forward, to sit very thoughtfully with each angle and aspect and not to meet it with resistance and fear. I think there's a large part of the stuff that I've been doing from time that is met with that fear. And there's part of me too where I've, thinking as I'm doing and noting that down as shorthand, as you see me doing right now, right, for when this locked in. It's a 37-minute mark for live, 37-minute mark. Am I going to remember that? Probably. But am I banking on my memory? No. And that's the idea. Any sort of organization or shorthand notation, the intention behind it is to bypass memory, right? Or even better, create a resource that is assisting in that memory. So there are many ways to take something that somebody else gave you as a set of instructions, whether that be a script, a prescription of sets and reps and rest, or step-by-steps of like how to do something, any sort of educational content. You can become absorbed in their way of doing it, so much so that it is so rigid and out of your natural way of doing things, that implementation and integration of those ideas is difficult. The idea behind creating whatever this is, all of this, the intention is to get more of what is useful in a coherent and thoughtful way, and entertaining, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not here to lecture, I'm not an expert by any means, but if my ideas themselves stand to be helpful, it is on my onus to package them and create so much so, allow this long form material to exist so I can then create bite-sized and meaningful bits that will eventually be impactful for somebody. So in order to do that, I have to get out of this mental gymnastic of why and what, and just kind of be like, all right, why not? What, not whatever, but like, yeah, what? I don't know. Just do it. You know what I mean? Like, if there's an idea, and it's going to be useful, we're going to find out, right? Like, I could sit here thinking and iterating and ideating, and that's what I'll probably be doing as I'm yapping, and it's just not going to get the message across. So, all that to say, let's begin. What we set out to do this rodeo round, I like to spend, I think that's a good framework, 10 minutes just kind of like giving the prelude, and then just actually delivering. So, when it comes to workout splits, been a gym nut past half a decade, nothing professional, trained a lot of people, I've been trained myself, mentored by some amazing people. I'm still very much I'm very technical in my ways. Just to give my sort of profile, my background, because I think it matters for some essence, for some of this, I don't know. Probably matters more once I actually go into it and give it some integrity, but lifted for around 5 years, calisthenics, gymnastics, powerlifting, knock on wood, no injuries. Better half of my life I've spent out of shape, dealing with health, skinny boy, skinny fat, you know, and then at the peak of heartache, and after 12 weeks of my first semester at university, 140 pounds, looking like I haven't slept, which I haven't for 12 weeks, realistically, and the exhaust was just kicking in. So when I got into powerlifting, part of that was just establishing a baseline for how much strength and energy I can show up with day in and day out. That's what I'm here for. That's part of the transformative upgrade process. So by doing this and having these kind of trailing documentations of how I do things, I've done a physical transformation 3 times already. I've bulked from 140 pounds to 180 within 8 months, leaned back down within around 6 months to around 160, dropped off a significant amount of body weight under the impression that one bulk and one cut cycle will give me the physique that I have dreamed for my whole life. It did not. But I look decent. I was happy with what I got. But decent is not enough, or whatever it is. But I pushed myself, essentially. I was like, all right, we're gonna do that one more time. And it took some, I had to do another 6 cycle. Is you're transforming your physiology, your metabolism, your bone density. Like for me, when I was skinnier, my wrist would just ache, and sometimes they still do. But any sort of impact on like my legs, my bones, I would just continue to feel them. Anytime something heavy would drop on me, I've got a squish toe and shit. Like, you know, those things, they're not. It's not light work. Being injured and hurt, walking into walls and just being like, oh my days, I'm about to fall apart. It's not ideal. It's not what you want. So I bulked one more time from 160 to just under 200. I had like 198. And that was a 10-month stretch. Like, I was pushing it. It was supposed to be 8 months, but I was not breaking through a threshold. I was stuck at 170, like 9. I couldn't get past 180, and I was like 30 pounds out from where I should have been. I was targeting 210, but it was such a massive jump. My body was like, it was really pushing its limits. You know, I didn't want to do this again. I didn't want to go through a third transformation. I realized in your early 20s, again, you can do this at any point in your life, but in your early 20s, your hormones are most naturally up. So physiology and change of metabolism, hormones, things like that, can happen naturally. Not significantly, nothing that you would see with a steroid of any sort, which I am not interested in because of longevity reasons. And also functionality. You know, I don't want to be ballooned. I know there's people that use steroids that aren't ballooned. Whatever. Regardless, I like the idea of, you know, having my heart and my organs intact. So for the most part, doing this au naturel. The only real kind of like thing that's, I would say, out of normative that I would use, so consistently, is diving into supplements, profiles, you know. Magnesium, omega-3s, vitamin D, and then I take something called chondroitin glucosamine, which is essentially an exoskeleton, helps with the joints. I mentioned that wrist thing, that's stemming from, again, being double jointed rather, in injuries. So all of that, it's just crab skeleton powder. I don't really think it's crazy. Some people will be like, oh, that's, ooh, I'm like, it's a little white thing. Anyway, not to self-commit clip. That's it. That's all I take. And then I stick to a decent, you know, I want to say average diet. But what does that mean? I'll dive into that in more detail at another point, because I myself am still reconfiguring that. But yeah, I've done this transformation twice. So what this is, this kind of 8 months seed that I'm planting in front of you right now with this YouTube channel, is documenting a transformation from ground zero. This is day 1 of a third transformation, and the reason why these are so significant is not only that they're life-changing, like I've genuinely changed my physique. I mentioned I bulked up one more time, up to 194. My last, I want to say 6 months. Yeah, 6 months have been, sorry, no. After I bulked up to 194, I did a 6 to 8 month cut, I think, to like 170, right? 175. And I've been there for the past 6 months now, coming up on almost 8. So the thing is, with 6 months, 8 months, that's 6 to 9 weeks to 12 weeks. Within that ballpark, that's usually a semester for most. So embarking on these fitness journeys, these little transformation, these kind of like fitness seeds, is something I've been doing for years now, right? And anyone that knows me in my close circle, or people that I've talked to, at some point, I'll be like, hey, I'm doing this with fitness. And they're like, wow, that's amazing. And then I'll do something else. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Wow, that's the same shit. Wow, that's the same thing. And I was like, it really is a lot of the same stuff. Because bulk or cut, whatever it is, fitness related, is consistency and patterns. And the last bulk and cut transformation was one of my most proud, significant ones. The first one was great. You know, it was obviously the first one. I got to see a new height, a new version of myself, and know that it was possible within arm's reach. The second time I've done it, I was really navigating a lot of emotional turmoil in my personal life. passing a family dog, and a lot of stuff throughout the days that were just, intense, right? Graduating, embracing the recession, embracing the economic turmoil of living in the sixth, good old Toronto, for the last year, during the pandemic as well. Actually, this was before my second bulk cut cycle, but, the pandemic, that was more, had its own challenges, its own troubles. But in a nutshell, sticking to fitness. The fitness journey for me, I guess, I hate calling it a journey because it's very live, laugh, love in me, but it is an active participation and involvement of myself in the transformation of who I am and what I would like to be. It's using what I know to create something. It's going back to the same thing we wrote here. And it prompts me to articulate what I'm responsibly doing. Towards the end of my last cut, I did, I was exploring different ways to really lose weight responsibly, because there's numerous ways that are irresponsible. And this one was teetering, and that was a water cut, very martial arts oriented, bulked up on a lot of water. I'm not going to break down water cut. There's much better resources on that. And honestly, I was hesitant towards doing it. I only agreed to do it within the last week of it coming up. So I had it as a potential project. Similar to this, in this workout that I'm going to be doing for the next 8 months. Kind of like, I let I call them missions, these things find me. And I embrace them thoughtfully. If I'm going to do something, I don't do it mindlessly. I try not to. So, stepping into this is very much an act of creation, and bringing these moving parts together and documenting it. It's creating it as it's going, learning to fly on the way down, while also spending but most waking moments outside of this, contemplating thoughtfully, what am I doing with this, and how am I participating in the creation of it. So, that all being said, hold on. Still got another. Sorry, getting a phone call. That was important. So I'm here to just really do that. To just embrace the transformation and attempt at documenting it. And not do it from a place of vanity. Because it is tough. Especially whenever you get cinematic with it. Whenever I start throwing a camera and a mic up, they're like, alright, what's the performance now? Get the lights right. Lights, camera, action, right? And that's the trouble. So I'm being thoughtful with that. I don't want to rally an audience for absolutely nothing. That's a huge concern of mine, where I feel like I'm wasting people's time. But I don't think I'm doing that here. So that's the intro. That's the prelude. We'll timestamp that. Timestamp 50-minute mark for intro and prelude. Now you see, part of the process too is thinking in advance and articulating that as you're going along. It's a fine line to walk, because you don't want to get in your own way of it. So I realize I've built up quite the amount of suspense. Okay, plenty of context. Let's dive into what we see here. So when it comes to designing a workout program, here, I'm going to give you priority on seeing the screen. Mike Israetel, a little bit about him. I actually don't know too much. I'm a terrible resource for this. Good coach of mine that has helped me through the last few transformations, passed this along my way. He himself, he's very much a genius in his own realm. Someone who very methodically and medically understands hypertrophy and the physical output that we can have. Now you'll notice that this specific program is advanced. Right? I mentioned I've been doing this for a few years. If you are a beginner, first time lifting, first time getting into fitness, this is not a fitness 101 thing. This specific program right? If you want one of those, Athlete X, Jeff Cavalier, Joe Delaney, YouTube.com, beginner workouts, talk to a gym person near you, reach out to me, whatever it is. There's many ways to go one-on-one. What I am doing here is not one-on-one. And the reason being is because I've done the one-on-one. I've done it for years. Part of, honestly, running for a month, which is my past month, the May fundraiser, I missed weightlifting. I missed the feeling of metal, the feeling of strength being increased, and knowing that I'm building more of the body that I want. And that's kind of the active idea of it. Not just for aesthetic, but for functionality. I want to go up steps with like leg strength and springs that are like, I'm not gassed up at the end of it. Or gassed down, tired. You know what I mean, right? I want to be capable. And I think that's a large part of my intention behind this. So I prioritize strength. Okay. And I've developed a good baseline strength. However, there's something to be said about when you focus on strength training for a long period of time, you do see slower gains. Gains being muscle growth that is measurable. In a sense, like, at some point, when your diet is consistent and your lifts are consistent, there has to be change introduced. So in order to introduce change, right? Because strength, you can imagine, is kind of like a baseline. Like, you want to have good strength. That's what calisthenics and gymnastics really are for me. They've created a good baseline physical output and strength, and that is often developed in the beginner years. So if you begin with lifting, you begin with body weight, it's good to have a combination of both, or even just have one season of one, another season of the other. It's kind of what I did. You developed an aptitude. They're both very different. One has more reps, more volume, whatever it is. This one, hypertrophy focuses more on sets, right? So we go up in sets and we go up in reps. So normally, I'll show you down here, these exercises themselves, I'm going to change for myself because I mentioned I'm double jointed, so I can't do some of these. Sets and reps. You have reps within sets. So this is 8 reps of 4. So you're doing 8 4 times. You're doing 8 3 times. 12 4 times. The rest, 60 seconds for all of it. So you get a minute rest in between everything, right? Hypertrophy is very much intense back to back with minimal rest, and it allows your circulation. There's huge in terms of diving into what it does with you. It allows you to increase volume, which is more sets and reps. It pushes past your failure. It's introducing that change into the structure of strength, and you get that progressive overload. You get to move more weight than you did before, which of course scratches the inner monkey dopamine. So it is fun. Most powerlifters train for hypertrophy first, for whatever reason, or first and foremost, I guess. But I think it's good to understand the framework of that space, because if you just do hypertrophy, you don't train for strength, you don't train for functionality, you don't do cardio, and you're just doing hypertrophy, great, you'll look nice, but I'm gonna look nice and run laps around you, and that's the difference. So that's what you want to get to. That's my goal anyhow. That's my intention behind doing this. So if your intention is you want to get stronger and you want to feel more capable, focus on that first. Don't do this. This I mentioned because I want to introduce change into it. And by doing this, by introducing hypertrophy into a 6-week weight schedule, the idea is that you follow that up with an increase of diet and calories, and that's kind of where the bulk starts to take place. So I'm not going to be gaining weight for this first 6 weeks. If anything, I run the risk of losing it, which, you know what, right now is not a bad idea, because I mentioned last 6 months for maintenance. The last 3 months were really, degenerate maintenance. It's not been good. And that's part of the pull too. It's discipline and schedule and routine. I felt a lot more easy. You know what I mean? And life is good like that. But sustainability for longevity reasons, I want to really increase my circulation and my physical output. So my energetic point, for what I can be capable of, this is getting stretched. So with that being said, the way it works is I'm pushing these sets and I'm really trying to give between 50 to like 90% of what it is, give myself a good amount of output, working a new full-time job that isn't physically exhausting, which is such an amazing blessing. One of the things too, with bulking and cutting and any sort of transformation, it is very, 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 I cannot enunciate enough, very difficult and near impossible to do without your living situation decently in check, your financial situation decently in check, your emotional. This actually it's a give or take, because the first time I did this, or even the second time, this wasn't fully there, but emotional security in yourself and happiness with life in check, or at least near in check. It's an optional box, but prioritize that for sure. Get out into nature, do what you got to do to be happy. But when it comes to like sometimes the hedonistic treadmill of like, but what would make me happy is that milkshake. I say that after having a milkshake yesterday. Yeah, you feel happy in the moment, and then kind of like you look at yourself and you feel yourself, and you're like, when I say feel, that came off terrible. Your stomach, your body does not nutritionally make use of it in the way that you would ideally want. Like, I want to be energized, and it's like, okay, protein, vegetables, that's the way to do it. But in your hip, that's all diet stuff. So that's not coming for another 6 weeks. I'm not going to be a nutritionist. I'm not at all. I don't have the prerequisites to recommend any sort of dietary stuff. This is purely documenting. This is purely what I'm going to do and what's going to work for me, if it works. And if it doesn't work, guess what? I'm going to adjust. I can't recommend one thing and then like something comes up later. It's like, follow what I'm doing at your own caveat. You know what I mean? Go live life yourself, make your own errors, make your own faults, and learn from them. And then hopefully share it with us so we can also not do the same shit. That's the idea. So. Oh, hi. Karen Joe. Joined the live. Hi. Hi. Thanks for joining the live. So that's the thing too. I didn't know if people will like go through the effort of like going to the YouTube stuff. I'm recording this. I'm clipping this up. I just saw this. I don't know what the timestamp is on that. Is there a timestamp? There isn't. Timestamps. I don't get timestamps. Wow. Timestamps. There it is. 2:54. Wow, that was a little bit ago. Anyways, okay, cool. Keeping with it. Hi, Kevin. Thanks. So yeah, it's the bread and butter, hypertrophy, right? So we got strength, functionality, hypertrophy. You got to make sure the other two are good. Functionality stems from your environment. I mentioned your living situation. Even myself, as the years go on, coming out of university, even commuting back and forth, consistency in home and having a fridge you can count on is kind of the main point of that. Where you can buy stuff and like the people you're living with aren't going to eat it or like take it or wonder what the hell you're doing. You don't got to coordinate groceries with somebody. And if you do have to, that's cool. That's great. Bring them along or at least inform them what's happening. There's ways to like, make it work if this is something you want to do. And I've been grateful that my partner has been able to be a part of that. Yeah, like this is not the act of one man. In order to pull this off, you do need people. I don't want to say you need people rooting for you, but it helps to have people in your corner to remind you, because really the gist of it is you are moving the weight. You're in there, and you got to do the reps, and it's a lot of reps. It's a lot of sets, and it requires you. Lifting stuff might be for you. So what will I be doing? I'm not following this to a T. All right, I know a lot of guys do. And they recommend if you want the similar results, whatever it is, that's the best way to do it. So I'm kind of a jaded case study of this. Being double jointed, I don't know how people can use my stuff for research. It really, a gist of what that looks like, and I'm not gonna fully do it on screen, but essentially, for my left side, my left shoulder and my left thumb all pop out with any undue pressure on them, right? So anything coming in that way, anything like that, these move out of the socket. Why? God's design, I don't know. I was born that way, and I've kind of just had to figure it out as I've been going along. Many people I talk to don't encounter this. There's people who are double jointed too, and they're like, wow, that's great. But no one ever really talks about how it affects weightlifting, which I feel is like very, I don't know. I feel like it's a space I can add to. I've always researched. I can't find anyone that's double jointed and posting fitness related stuff. I guess I'm just that guy. So if this is speaking to my double jointed community, what's up? Glad to know we exist. Yeah, I don't really know what I'm doing here in the fitness space, but for whatever reason, this just makes the most sense to me. So, anyway, what does it look like? So, for me, I'm going to be sticking to days 1, 2, and 4, with a third one resting. Reason being, now, if you have more access to the gym and your day-to-day schedule, say if you're working part-time, or if you, I guess for me too, like if your full-time job, I'm still yet, this is new to me, right? So I don't know. At some point, physically it requires less from you. Like you may be there still, whatever the amount of hours your shifts are, but you're not as fatigued. And when the evening comes around, you'll know how much kind of like zest for life you have left. Ideally, more than you can ask for. But I know what it's like to, I used to commute an hour and a half to and fro every day for when I was working at Remax real estate, and I did that for 3 weeks. Did that for 3 weeks and got laid off, and I was actually kind of happy about it because I was just like, I was not able to do this. I was not able to actually build what I wanted to build that I knew would be helpful and useful for people. So that's what I'm focusing on, and that's what I'm here to do. So that being said, I'm doing days 1, 2, and 4. I only have 3 days in the week I can work out due to my current personal situation. If you have more, do more. My current physical output that I can guarantee realistically at like a good level is 2, like twice a week, but I'm pushing for the 3rd because I'm a zealous guy and I like to commit and challenge myself. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do 3 a week, and I'm going to stick to that. I've done this before. I've done a year where like I've been to the gym 2 to 3 times a week without fault, 52 weeks out of the year, and I know I can do it. It's not easy. Believe me, it's not easy. The fatigue, the risk of injury if you were not lifting responsibly is there, but also sustainability, your diet, your health. You can't, like, I guess if you get sick, you still kind of have to manage, but at a lesser capacity. So if you shoot for, like, say, for example, up to day 5, you're doing 4 times a week. If that's your schedule and you've mapped for that, but you realistically, within a 6-week span, only done 4 days 2 times, it's not a 4-day, 6-week thing, you know what I mean? So create a goal. That's realistic. Stick with it. Do it. Execute it. I'm doing 3 days a week. That's for me. For me, I mentioned I can't do any sort of weight on a impact direction that is not mappable. You know what I mean? So basically, I can't do barbells, but I can do dumbbells. So I'll be switching this out. In terms of calculating the actual volume and weight, start light, and if you can pull this off, no problem. Go heavier, right? There's tons of, like, unless you have a coach next to you, I can't give you an exact number. There's ways to mathematically do it. I think Kino Body, Greg O'Gallagher, has a good way about it. If you want to dig into his style, like, there's mathematics involved in terms of percentages and things. But there's also calculators. There's tons of ways to figure out what the actual weight is. But again, it depends on your personal situation, your personal weight, your personal lifting history, etc., etc. So, I'm not going to dive into that. What I'm going to dive into is the actual protocol that I will follow once I step into the actual gymnasium. Bench press. Bench. So, for the last, I want to say, year, I mentioned I did the 6 months cut, 6 months maintenance, or 6 to 8 months cut, whatever it was. Basically the last year, outside of the last month where I was running for the whole month, I just did a 5-5-5. 5 minutes of 5 sets. Sorry. 5 sets of 5 reps with a 5-minute rest. It's Russian powerlifting style. I can go in and out, be done with the gym within 25 minutes. Realistically 30, counting, changing, getting out of there. Sometimes 35, you know how it is. So, ideally, a gym session, 35 minutes max. This, because there's more sets, there's more rep, I'm probably not going to rest the complete minute. I may go a little bit over. I'm a tired guy, especially in the evenings, which is probably when I'll be lifting the most. So this may not be perfect to a T. But if I'm on top of my P's and Q's and I'm crushing it, I should be out of there within 40 minutes. That's the idea of this whole thing. So giving myself the hour, I guess, is a good framework. And I can do an hour 3 times a week. That's what it comes down to. And you can factor in commutes and all that based on whatever your gym is. But you want to make it easy for yourself. Make it easy to get to your gym. And I've been grateful. My new work has a gym literally underneath it. And as well, it's 20 minutes from my previous gym. So things are possible. And I just have to not get in my way with it. 4 sets, 8 reps, bench. I'm using dumbbells. You can use barbell. Standing activates more of the lumbar, engages more of the full body. 3 sets, 8 reps. Triceps, weighted, going straight into weighted probably won't happen. I'm going to have to do that body weight to begin, just because of, 1, logistics. I have to figure out if I have access to a belt. 2, you want to make sure you warm up your triceps, especially. And I think, obviously, as these weeks go on, you feel the residue from the previous workouts. So you kind of have that. That's one thing with hypertrophy is it keeps what's called a pump, the physical look that you've lifted weight, the blood flowing through your muscles. It keeps that in flow, so it builds and stays more intact there. That's the idea, right? So I'll probably do that body weight. Cable standing fly. I'll do some variations of that just to make it happen. The idea is that you're activating the mid-central chest as well as lower chest, maybe a bit of the upper chest, but that's also there with the pressing. Probably mostly the lower and midsection, right? Because any sort of press motion you're doing, you're activating that upper part. Dumbbell shrugs, have been a hit or miss, to be honest, for me. But I'll do it because it's there. Figure might as well grow your lats, not your lats, sorry. Wow, I'm blanking on the name. The lats as well. Lats are definitely getting activated. But there's another part that I'm blanking on between your neck and your shoulder. You know the muscle. It's the one that looks like you're a bear and you tackle people for a living. Upright row, no go for the shoulders, so I will be switching that out. In fact, what I'll be switching that out for is probably some kind of kettle pull or handstand variation. The pike push-up is always an option. Yeah, some kind of push, body weight exercise. Because the upright row is actively trying to activate. It's basically working on getting the full development of your shoulders and your rotator cuff. Face pulls will probably be a better alternative for that. Easy bar curl, aesthetically, the biceps, that's what it feels like. That's what that looks like. Any sort of curl motion. It's hypertrophy workout. You don't really get stronger by doing bicep curls. That's something you kind of learn over time. If you want to really grow your biceps, I mentioned the gymnastics, pull-ups, rows, surprisingly, deadlifts, you'd be surprised, really do develop the roundedness of a bicep, which, I'll be growing because that's what we do here. Ab crunch machine, I'm probably going to do some kind of hanging reverse, like basically when you lift your hips above, reverse curl. Reason being, it's just the most activation. I've been doing that with the rings, and I feel like that's really developed the core strength towards what I want. And I think what this just wants you to do is work on your core, right? So you have variation of 3 pressing exercises, 1 for the mid-chest, and then 1 for the upper traps is what they're called. Trapezoids, not trapezoids, but traps. That's what it is. And then your bicep and abs, right? So these are really defining exercises, right? That's what it's for. It's muscle definition. I know I sounded like a gym bro with that muscle definition. Day 2, your legs. You ain't chicken out here. Chicken legs. Squat. Barbell back squat. I've been able to do that gratefully. And honestly, it sucks, so I need that weight's going to be real low. I'm going to really up that over these few weeks. 45-degree leg press. Obviously, do not do this if you have any sort of lower back pain. This, again, is why it's important to have that baseline functionality and strength. So make sure you got that unlocked. 6 sets of 10. Calf raises. Now, I'm still also kind of suspect of calf raises, but we're going to give it a shot. I really don't want cramps. I've been terrified. I've had leg cramps before, especially on the hamstrings, and that's usually from hydration and sodium levels, so do what you will with that. And back to, level out the press, shrug, variation of row, curl. Same stuff you did the previous week. But yeah, high reps, 20 reps, 15 reps, 12 reps, multiple sets, just getting into it. This is the point of the playlist that changes. That's what's happening. Day 3 is rest. So go home, eat, sleep, talk to your partner, talk to your family, hug your dog. Day 4, deadlift. Build more of that, or tap more into that functionality and that strength. So sumo deadlift and deficit deadlift is going to be interesting. Just to make sure I have a better understanding of that. 10 pounds weekly, interesting. So deficit deadlifts, this got to be like lower weight. Yeah, you're targeting here. Yeah, lower back, lower weight. Yeah, because normally with a deadlift, you're lifting stuff like massive like that, right? And that's usually where we get a lot of that gratification with deadlifting. You gotta give that up. You gotta stop lifting like a egomaniac for a little bit so your joints adjust and your functionality adjusts. It's impressive to lift 400 plus, 300 plus, It's great. I know some dudes that are way stronger than me on deadlift, but there's always, it's life's not all about competition. There's always some people that may just be better at you physically in many other avenues. But if you'd like to focus on you versus you, build your baseline strength. Sumo deadlifts will do that for you. Stiff-legged will do that for you. The variation on legs activate different parts of your legs, as well as different parts of your lower back in terms of involvement. Bent over rows, you can do this with mining rows as well, which is just having the one barbell, the weighted things on the end, and then there's a little thing you stick it into in the rack if you have that. If not, you could just row with the actual weight that you have, whether it be barbell or dumbbells. Barbells more ideal because of the actual physical exertion. With dumbbells or more concentration, you're more squeezing at the top. You do want to squeeze as well with the barbell, but it's also a matter of just really pulling and activating that bicep and back involvement at the same time, right, as a compound. Speaking of compound, pull-ups, if you're not in gymnastics, you're not in the calisthenics, this has been out of your bread and butter for a minute. But if you've been doing the hanging stuff, like I mentioned as well, it pans out. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much what I'll be following. I'm going to try my best to be documenting it over the span of the next few weeks. Yeah. Timestamp, that's funny. That's at the 50-minute, 70-minute mark. Done explanation. Now, without ideating and losing and rambling too much on the other stuff, right? So that's the 6-week workout plan. Bada bing, bada boom. The YouTube short channel. Okay. I'll have to take more than just a sip of water on this. This one, I've been battling. I've been swinging the axe at for eons. So, what that looks like. Actually, in fact, I don't even need this open. This is a little YouTube channel, right? This whole something. What I have is my 3 promo videos. I'm pretty sure that's my mom that got me those views. I got this live that I just did, right? I don't even have thumbnails developed. That's in the process of getting this going. There's a huge list of the things that I need, and being able to show up for those things individually is a process. So what that means is, like, for example, I know I need to develop a thumbnail. I need to develop a content plan. I'm not going to do this live today. Not that aspect anyways. The structure behind what am I doing and saying, right? If I'm going to treat this as a playground of documentation to articulate what I know responsibly and what I'm going to be doing and creating regardless, I ought to share that in some kind of sense, right? I ought to share that in some kind of motion, and that's what this channel's about. So being able to articulate that is tough because it remains in the vague. It remains very amorphous, kind of like it's defining itself as it's going, which it is. That's what it is doing. Yeah. So what I'll do while I yap, and you'll kind of see me doing this. There's kind of the ability to do two things at the same time, kind of. You'll see I've wrote out here, test out programming for a physical YouTube subscribe card. Over the last few months, some point in the last few months, a close friend of mine and myself designed these together. These are business cards, holographic. Catch your attention as they walk around. I've got to laminate them. I just dropped them on the floor. I've also got to program them because they are what's called NFC cards. NFC, not near field communication, allows you to program them to respond to your phone when they are near them. So part of the process which I'm doing here, I could probably share my screen a bit better, share my phone screen, but I've just gone through the hassle of doing that, and it took me 37 minutes, so I'm not going to do that again. Instead, you'll just have to take my word for it, and kind of get the idea. But I'm going to write to them. I'm going to add a record, and this record is going to be a link to subscribe to this YouTube channel. Now, the thing is, to do that to somebody, you know what, better yet, it's not going to be a link to subscribe, it's just a link to my YouTube channel. Because I don't think I can get people to just subscribe. It's kind of forward. I'm like, hey, click this and find out, and then all of a sudden I'm in their feed everywhere. It's not what people want. Anyways, I added it as a record, right? So I wrote it in, and I got the card. So all I gotta do is write to it, which I did. And that one's ready to scan. I'm also gonna write to another one. Because see, the thing with these cards, and why I've kind of sat on them for a while, is they're kind of funky. Meaning they'll work sometimes, and sometimes they won't. But if I put them together, right? Put them together, the chances of something happening go up significantly. But that's also a thing too, because sometimes they're just not being read. There we go. Pops up as an NFC tag eventually. When I do that, brings it to the page. Lo and behold, there it is. But I need to figure out a way to get the strength of these up. Because sometimes they'll work, sometimes they don't. Especially if the phone is off. Right? I have to play around with it a bit. They're not that strong, which is unfortunate. But yeah, you'll see them pop up time and time again. Anyway, that was that. I'm gonna stop recording from here. I think that's quite useful. Okay, recording's done. So what am I doing here? I want to be able to record these and just kind of have it go live and just upload it. This right now, the stream, I'm going to upload it as is. You'll see it be a mess. I said I'd follow through on what I did. In terms of building a YouTube channel, this is what that looks like. I've given you very behind the screen, behind the views. You have to ideate in a few things. Your identity that you're bringing forward to the table in a digital format. Your identity in itself, contemplating that as an ever-growing conversation. It's how you kind of understand yourself as you exist in the world. So, allowing yourself to just be as you are and allow the cameras to roll and the mic to run allows other people to participate in the journey of getting to know you. So in that nutshell, getting to know yourself requires you to do so fearlessly. Like, I'm not really going into this scared of the judgment, because I know there is some. I judged this. I know this isn't the best quality. I know this isn't as great as I could make it or want it to be. And that's okay. That's all right. Right? This is an audio experience regardless. People come along for the journey and embrace the scramble of it, but they're also not watching it casually with the intent, or at least if they are, I'm grateful for it, but like, they're not watching this to see the thinking process the full way. So that's why part of this right now, if you've clicked off on this kind of build with me process, you got what you came for, right? You see what goes into scheduling things. I mentioned a weekly planner. This is all important and relevant to that. I know I'm speaking in generics. This is very, very, very specific. I promise. So when it comes to planning, especially weekly, there's a distinct assessment of what you are capable to do within a set amount of time. And the judgments you have in regards to that get into the way of you being able to articulate that. So in order for someone to show you how to do it is one thing, but to show you how I do it is another. And how I do it may not be as valuable if you have no distinction or intention or creation towards how you can do it. So if you are here for that, welcome. That feeds into this YouTube channel creation stuff, right? So let me show you that. So there's a few ways to organize yourself. For me, I have my endless stream of reminders day by day on my phone, which I have a bit of a shorthand, a bit of an icon that you can just hit, which you can create this yourself if you have an iPhone. That allows you, you can also go to your reminder app and just input thing to do and then when to do it. And then set it at a point that you know you can do it at. That's it. Like, don't complicate it beyond that. I think there's different sessions for strategizing and figuring out what you are doing with something. Like I mentioned, the ideation process when it comes to a YouTube channel. A project that will last longer than a hour or two sprint. Anything that requires time, like genuine, a lot of time. These are reminders that you revisit. It's a bit different. Those are not weekly planned. Those are daily. Those are sometimes monthly, or like every day for a month, whatever it is. Like, you're revisiting those concepts consistently and almost aggressively because there's this urgent desire to make sense of the world as it is, so that you can better participate in it. So when it comes to weekly, right, there's different workshops to approach this in. For weekly development of self, right? There's all the meditative, relational, long-term contemplations. These I'm not speaking about, because I'll go into an existential window on it. Your financial situation, your relationships, all the different parts of yourself that create a healthy whatever. Those are not task oriented. Then you have the things that are task oriented. Task oriented means you have shit to do. This could be work related. This could be project related. And for me, that could be the same thing. For yourself, that may be a separation. whatever it is, it's a thing that needs to get done. And chances are, the better you are at doing it in terms of getting the list done, day in and day out, the more of the evidence that you leave behind that you will consistently do what you set yourself out to do allows other people to depend on you to do the same. The people that I've extended an olive branch towards and talked to about this whole project, going live and streams, etc., the YouTube stuff, I'm very deliberate about who I'm asking about it, and the chances are, if I haven't asked you about it, A, I didn't feel a need to, or B, I probably will at some point when we interact yet again. So at that point, create relentlessly, create optimistically. Whatever falls in line. So that being said, I'm at the hour and a half mark of this live. I'm going to push for a little bit more, another 15 minutes, just to really articulate the thinking process that goes into this. So when I talk about how-tos and demos and tutorials, those often come in the framework of steps, right? And that's task. That's being very task-oriented, right? You can do the same for yourself. And what that does, it allows other people to see a direction, but it also allows you to follow a direction. If you are task-oriented, and you know, like, for example, this is a terrible example, but I actually don't have... Actually, no, I don't want to use an example I'll butcher, but I was going to say, like, construction. I'll just use it anyways, I guess. Construction, where, you're going in, you have to fix up a room, and you know that you have to tear down that room and replace that pipe and change that lighting and change that outlet and upgrade, that connector, whatever it is, that vent. But you don't know the order in which you should do these things. So you swing for the walls and you pull out the outlets, and then the vent, because it was clogged originally, doesn't take out all the dust and muck and stuff that comes. Like, say you want to replace the septic, but you don't have, like, a window that's, like, properly working in that room or whatever. It is a terrible house, but it's a nightmare for refurbishing. But if you don't have strategy, if you don't sharpen the axe before you swing it at the tree, you will spend an endless amount of time swinging a blunted blade. And steel sharpens steel. That's what we're here to do. We're here to sharpen each other. That's my intent. Whether or not I do that well, is a gamble in itself. It's bizarre to me that, these things unfold. But anyway, that all being said, I'm curious to see how this all pans out. It's good to keep those framework of steps. So whenever it comes to your weekly pattern, things that you have to get done, I can give examples of these tasks. It differs from person to person. Like I said, it's not useful for me to do that for me in front of you. I'll do it, but it's more useful to understand the why and how you can do it for yourself, so that you can then construct your week as you will. A life lived by design versus a life given to you out of your design is the two kind of crossroads we're playing with. That's Jim Rohn. So if you are able to stick to what you are designing for yourself, the things that need to get done will get done. So that being said, what do I have on my list? And this is kind of how I go on the framework. So, alright, AI. This is why I like Notion. Ask AI to write. Generate a weekly planner for me, encompassing the columns of fitness. This is where I'll get my kind of bubble of, like, what I'm working on that day. What's the planner for me for the month of June? Encompassing columns of fitness, AI projects, and that's stuff I've talked about. There's the idea of, I just saw somebody up there, the idea of, hold on one second, and being able to actually articulate sorry, I got pulled ahead. AI projects, and also the consistency of work, which, you know, I kind of know what my day is like. I'm not going to create a column for that. You know what I could do, actually? You know what? I'll do this here. Here's active editing, right? So while that's there, I also have the consideration of this. Your Google Calendar is another way, right? So what you could do here, the way you could do this with Outlook, do this with Google Calendar. Either way, you have your days kind of set up. You see here, I kind of have like an automatic setting already in terms of the morning schedule and everything. And it's the life. And then so I have the morning check-ins, right? So I have my stuff throughout the day. Between 9 to 5, I have a good amount of meetings and things that kind of happen day by day. Prospecting is here. I work pretty much between these hours. So the idea is that outside of this, everything's broken down into 1 hour sprints. I mentioned these things take only 1 hour. So if I'm lifting, that's happening only for an hour each day, right after work. So take this, duplicate it, boom, 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 save, throw that there, and this kind of just rinses and repeats. So because I'm traveling this Friday, or say something shifts around, I can always adjust this every week, week by week. I'll be revisiting this kind of weekly schedule, and I'll have other things I need to do in terms of laundry. I mentioned the AI projects, groceries, whatever it is. Sit down, and the more you're able to kind of process that for the week, the better you can set yourself up. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's what that looks like. Without doing that and drawing that all out, because the reality is there's so many moving parts, and if I had to sit down, you have to take, again, this process, you have to set aside planning, right, for around 2 hours, just so you have the environment and space to do so. So I'll be doing that, and then coming into next weekend, we'll revisit kind of where we left off here, and I'll show you how, after spending some time contemplating that, more of the thought process, and how to better make use of it. So yeah, so we've gone over the fitness. Let me just double check to make sure everything's all covered. The weekly planner. In terms of building the YouTube channel, you'll see this growing as we're moving along. So you're gonna have the 2 hours set aside for contemplation of life, stuff like this. What am I talking about, right? I'm articulating what am I responsibly doing. Am I creating with what I know? Am I getting out of my own way as much as possible? And if I check those 3 boxes, then I'm actively building something worthwhile. Yeah, the more I'm creating resources that helps me bypass memories and assist me in a resourceful way, the better. So if this way works for you, great, right? Mapping things individually day by day. I know I'm going to be lifting these days, right? I know after work, 3 times a week, I'm going to go to the gym. I may do it on the weekend too, right? If I miss a day, say for example, if I can't lift on this day, I'll move it to Saturday, like that, whatever it is, and I don't have to update it. I can just do it, right? But if you are the type where you feel that having this laid out in front of you, where you wake up and you see your calendar for the day, and you feel it is liberating to stick to that, do it. If you feel like it is limiting to stick to that, don't do it. Remake it, recreate it, redo it, make it work for you. So that's the idea. The more we can work on that, the better off we'll be. So that being said, I'm just going to wrap this up here. Good stuff today. I'll see you guys in the next one.